Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video we're talking about the Switch, the 3DS, and the Steam Deck. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, this will be the last video that I'm recording in this hotel room, and I'm kind of curious to see how my next video turns out. And yes, I'm whispering to not wake up Mrs. Sujano. We had a big day today. She's sleeping and it's pretty late at night. Anyways, we're going to get right into it talking about Mikage, and I've got a bunch of messages about Mikage today. At this point in time, Mikage has not been released to the public. If you see a build of Mikage floating around right now, chances are it's 100% fake. And this was a very interesting page on Mikage's website on mikage.app/download. The bottom sentence here says eventually Mikage will be available for purchase on both Google Play and Steam. So obviously this got a lot of people talking. People are wondering if Mikage is going to be a paid app, kind of like Ryujinx, an app that works very well, but you got to pay for it. And this on Mikage's FAQ is extremely interesting. It says Mikage will be open source. Now I have reached out for clarification but haven't heard back yet, and as soon as I know more, you'll know more. But this sentence here kind of spells things out for me. It says for similar reasons we may opt not to release 100% of the source code required to build binaries. That's telling me that it is going to be a paid app. As much as I encourage stuff to be free and open source, if Mikage has built this from the ground up, then I can kind of understand why they're trying to close the source just a little bit and possibly make a few bucks based on all of their effort. However, if they are borrowing code from other sources and then closing that source and charging for it, I would probably have a problem with that. Actually, I know I would have a problem with that. So it's not worth speculating at this point in time, but as soon as I know more, you'll know more. And speaking about paid, next up we're talking about Nintendo Switch Emulation on Android with Skyline, specifically Skyline Edge. For those who are unaware, Skyline Edge is basically a paid testing version or early access version of Skyline. Those changes eventually make their way over to the mainline version in about 2 weeks or so, give or take here. And the way to get the paid version of Skyline was to be a Ko-fi subscriber or supporter, or Ko-fi rather. Anyways, they're switching off the Ko-fi platform and moving over to Patreon. The Skyline developers state that Ko-fi had a whole bunch of shortcomings, and Patreon hopefully shouldn't have those same shortcomings. If you are a supporter on Ko-fi, your subscription should be automatically canceled in the next few days, and you'll have to re-up it over on Patreon. And still talking about Skyline Edge, it appears that someone's got Bayonetta 2 up and running between 50 and 60 frames per second on Skyline Edge version 11. And someone's got Super Mario Odyssey and Skyrim up and running at just under 20 frames per second on a Snapdragon 665, which is well below minimum specs. Moving on now, we're still talking about Switch Emulation, but switching over to PC and talking about Yuzu. Yuzu mainline version 1232 just released. If you like to play the Legends of Heroes, well, there's no longer a black screen on the main menu. And on top of that, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 got some graphic fixes. And interestingly enough, Ryujinx, the other Switch emulator on PC, also got an update that also fixes Xenoblade Chronicles. Ryujinx version 1.1.342 was just released. This one fixes grass rendering in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition on Vulkan on Intel GPUs. On top of that, it might fix similar issues in Pokken Tournament and Xenoblade Chronicles games for AMD and or Intel GPUs. Next up, we're talking about Nintendo DS emulation on Android with MelonDS, and this is great news if you use MelonDS. So there is an update for MelonDS on Android, however, it's not available on the Google Play Store just yet. If you wanted to check it out, you can head to the MelonDS Android GitHub, and I'll leave a link in the description below. Once you are here, click on Actions, and then click on Update to MelonDS 0.9.5. You will need to be logged into a GitHub account in order to access the file, but on the bottom of the page it says MelonDS on Android. If you have a GitHub account and you're logged in, you should be able to click on this link and download the APK. A little while back, we talked about the massive update to MelonDS on PC version 0.9.5. It's nice to see some of these updates make their way over to Android. And last up, we're talking about the Steam Deck, and SteamOS version 3.4 preview was just released and has some pretty big performance updates. I will leave a link to the changelog in the description below in the event that you do want to check it out. But they say here they've rebased SteamOS to the latest version of Arch Linux. Now I think they're still using the exact same kernel and haven't updated that yet, but there are some performance improvements. On top of that, there's a bunch of changes to the desktop mode. It gets a new overview view, gets a new widget, some new themes, and also some new touchscreen gestures. On top of that, they've hopefully reduced some sporadic fan behavior, and there's new firmware for the Steam Deck dock. If you have an HDMI 2.0 monitor, you shouldn't have any more issues with it. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. Let me know your thoughts about anything we talked about today in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.